Thank you for joining us here on CBS News Baltimore. I'm Denise Koch. You may have already seen my interview with Ray Rice, but now you will get to see the entire conversation. As you know, Ray's career was cut short when video was released showing him knocking unconscious his now wife, Janae, and then dragging her from an Atlantic City elevator. It has been 10 years, and Ray, Janae, and their children have moved back to Baltimore. Ray says he has done extensive work to understand what happened, to change, and get a second chance at building a new life. Now you can watch our entire conversation, and you decide if you are ready to give him the same. It's been almost 10 years since the domestic assault incident that derailed your career, your NFL career.
Yeah.
What do you remember from that incident?
Well, you know, because it's 10 years removed, I think that the one thing I do remember is the space I was in mentally. And the space I was in mentally, you know, 10 years ago, I'm 36 now, 26-year-old, you know, who had no experience on, you know, just how to handle the financial part of that life, you know, and, you know, look back on it, like I said, even before the incident, I was making, you know, had a bad season of life, you know, dealing with injuries in sports, but none of that are excuses for the incident. But when you look back at it and you go into reflection, you know, they say life is understood backwards. And, you know, when I look backwards on what I was doing at that time in my life, I think that all the good things that I was doing were being overshadowed by some of the things that I wasn't doing right.
And I think, talking about what things?
Just the way, like, you know, when you're dealing with injuries, the way I went about things, not wanting to ask for help, being too prideful, you know. You just look at it now, you can't do those things alone. You know, I wasn't a vulnerable person then. I wanted to help because of the insecurities I had about myself. So for me to overdo for someone, for me to overcompensate in the area would be the most ideal thing to do, because those were, you know, Band-Aids over surgery. But when you look back at that, those are decisions that, you know, you just know you have to ask for help. And I think that out of all the things that I've counseling, tutoring, tutelage, I think that that's the biggest thing for me, you know, being the oldest of my siblings, but just asking for help. And sometimes it's right there in front of you, but sometimes, you know, I hate that myself, my family, I had to put them through all that we've been through. But today, being in this space, you know, I don't want to say reward, because it's not a reward. It's more of, you have to put in the work to continue, you know, to live forward. As you understand it backwards, you still have to live it forward. And I think that, you know, taking it one day at a time has helped me.
So what kind of work have you done in the last 10 years in order to come to this place?
Well, I like to say the work that I've done, I've always had a passion for helping kids. That part of my life was so genuine that I think that now the message even came clearer that that's something I love to do. But I've done intensive counseling. I've had therapists that I continue to work with. And I think when you talk about therapists, a lot of people say, you know, sometimes that could be cliche. Something goes wrong, you find a therapist. But I think that when you find a therapist, you almost want to become selfish to letting people know. But the therapist that, you know, the multiple of them that I used, they've all gave me something different. And I think that that part of it, just understanding that that's a part of life, is just like a regiment. Like when you know, you don't want to get too low before you need to use the therapist. You know, it's just finding that healthy balance and finding that part of life that works. But that's been a process over the last 10 years. Like, I'm mentioning all these things, and And football was therapy. Football was my therapist. You know, so.
Before.
Yes, I didn't, you can go talk to people, you can do what you have to do, but there was no better therapy than going on the field. And that's where my mind had to change. It was a whole rewiring process of understanding that football is not therapy. It's a place that I just happen to have a God-given talent, and I was able to go use my talents to go out there and, you know, make some great plays. But that place felt like therapy, you know, and some of my childhood teachings there, I realized that there wasn't therapy. I had an ability that God had given me, and I had to rewire that thought process, because when it wasn't there no more to go out there and play, the football did nothing for me.
Was football the place you felt a release? Is that what you mean by therapy? Was it where you felt most yourself? What made it feel like therapy when you were playing?
I think when you're healing from something, and I'm talking about childhood now, when you're healing from something, you need to put that pain somewhere. So me not understanding what healing was, just kind of growing up, normalizing these abnormal things. Like, I started paying bills when I was 11 years old. I mean, I get it. For some families, that might seem normal, but to America, that's not normal for an 11-year-old to be paying bills, be the head of his household at that age. And
weren't you working at 8?
I was working, and I remember just, like I said, that part of it, like I said, you could say, oh, that was hard work, that taught him something, but I was taking care of my household since I was 11 years old. So when they say you live life in reverse, I was a man at 11 and a boy at 21. What do you mean? When I was 21 and got drafted, I literally went back and overcompensated for everything I did not have from when I was growing up. So that's why football became the therapeutic place. It was just a place where I parked my pain, I parked my anger, I parked everything in football. And, you know, there's good that comes out of that, but then when you put it all in one space, you know, it's just not, you can't do that. And I understand that now, because I have 2 beautiful children, and I don't let them park all their time in sports. You know, I love the fact that, you know, my son, I coach his team. I love the fact that my daughter, she plays sports, but when they come home, like, I mean, if you don't mention it, it's fine to me. You know, my son wants to play with his toys, dinosaurs, his friends, his family. Like, we don't have to bring this home. It's just part of something that we do to build relationships with, and make sure you're having as much fun while you can do it.
What you're describing that I'm trying to understand about the release of playing football, etc., is that part of that whole gladiator, tough, charging mentality that you have to get into to play football? And if that's the case, isn't it a problem turning it off, going back into real life? Isn't that part of the problem? Is that part of the reason that it's so easily to take it out into your personal life or to take it out into a public space? And it can lead to something like domestic violence amongst players.
I think that when you mention the gladiator part of it, I think that there's 2 folds to that, right? I've been around guys that are the nicest guys in the world. They just happen to be good football players. What I think that happens is you have a traumatic response. And I think that what it was and not talked about enough is the trauma that someone might have faced when they were very young. And there's even a term for it called intergenerational trauma. And that trauma is trauma can turn you out to be good and bad, because the trauma that I've been through I was able to park it somewhere in sports and become very successful. But then there's the other side of trauma, that I was able to park it in sports, but I wasn't able to ask for help because I was insecure about it. Because I was told I was the man of the house, and a man is not supposed to cry, a man is not supposed to, feel. His job is to pay bills and provide and go out there.
Is a man supposed to hit?
No. And that's where it becomes problematic. When you are told things, you grow up in it, you witness things, you see it, and then it becomes you without you even knowing it. And I think that that's what kind of played in my life. I was, with taking full responsibility, all those things that I mentioned, being told, you be a man, don't cry, a man is supposed to provide, a man is supposed to do this. That's what I grew up on. And today I know that that's not the case. I think the best version of a man is a man that's vulnerable, that understands that we're only as good as if we deal with our deeper inner emotions. Because everyone has them. There's no lying about understanding that, you don't have to be the bravest guy to go out there to play football. You don't have to be the bravest guy to go out there and be a gladiator. What's being brave today is actually saying, you know what? I've been through some traumatic things, and they really hurt. And if I didn't deal with them, I don't even think I would be sitting here today. That's how deep, without even going into the mental space you can get to. Because when you don't have nowhere else to run, that place is either dead or in jail. I'm just happy I use the word happy, but I'm thankful to have people that pulled me out of those spaces when I got really low. And I'm even thankful for the people who told me the truth about myself when I got really high, because I wanted to find that balance of life. And I think that, that's a beautiful space to be in.
When you got really high, you mean before the incident, when you were at the pinnacle of your career?
Yeah, there were people that would say to you, you're moving too fast. You're moving a little too fast, yeah. When you're moving that fast, and it's not about what you're doing right, it's the things that they see that can go wrong.
It almost sounds like that really horrible thing that happened, that was so very public, was a positive step in your life.
I don't like to use it like that, because I don't like to use the term the worst thing that ever happened to me was the best thing that happened to me, because of the severity of domestic violence. There's too many, the survivors of domestic violence, they don't want to hear that. And I'm very remorseful to that, and I don't want anyone to experience that part of it. But what I will say is, I'm thankful to be in the space that I am now, because I did not understand the severity of domestic violence. I never understood it from the time that it happened, because there's so many different layers to it. There's, verbal, physical, but the thing that only gets talked about is the physical. So when you're talking about certain things in that light of, domestic and sexual assault, I'm not an expert in that at all, but I know that there are people out there doing great work in that field, and they are the professionals. Mm-hmm. What I want to say is I understand why. It is a very severe topic and a very bad thing that can happen in society, and I'm just looking forward to taking it one day at a time and helping as many people as I can understand that there's really no place for it. If you learn the power of respect, and you value yourself and you value women, you would understand that there's no place for it.
At the time that it happened, I went to your Facebook page from way back then when you sort of gave your thank you to your Baltimore fans. And most of the comments from people in the community were positive towards you. There was, however, a tone in there that I think domestic violence professionals find very upsetting, which is blaming Janae, saying, well, what did she do? Well, did she provoke this? Well, what did she do? Basically, victim shaming, victim blaming. How did you feel about that at the time? Do you remember that?
Yeah, you know what? I think that, I mean, once it was out there, you gave people room for conversation. And like I said, not knowing then about the work that professionals do, like, it's the power of respect there, right? If there's people that put in hours and hours in work and have studied this and understand the psychological, field force and understanding this, then yes, that would come off as very disrespectful in that world. That's no difference in my world of understanding that I've been playing football since I was 7 years old, and someone came up to me and I'm coaching a game and you're telling me to run this play that we never worked on. I might find that highly offensive because who is this person? I put in all these years, I put in all these hours to understand the game, and someone's telling me you should have ran that play. I understand why that victim shaming thing was a very bad thing, but I like to say this about my wife. She was never she takes care of her business. And I don't speak for her, but I would say she's the strongest woman alive. And that's something that we've known each other since we were kids. And we literally say we grew up together. I'm not proud of what's happened, but who she is and what she is to our family is bar none. She's the strongest woman alive, and there's not enough credit I can give her. Me speaking like this is sometimes I feel like I'm speaking for her, but it's not enough credit I can give her. The ground that she walks on, the platform that she lays, and the wife and mother that she is to, our kids and others. She's my version of she's my superhero for our family, and hopefully she's an inspiration to others in a way where how she carries herself. She's not the one that she's not here for a popularity contest. She's here because, she was able to see the better version of me, and she was able to take a deeper look.
Well, you got married soon after, did you not?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Did you, obviously she forgave you, obviously she got over whatever she felt after that happened. Did you go to marriage counseling? Did you talk to anybody before you got married? Because for a lot of people that would break up a relationship. Yeah. It seemed to, soon after you made the lifetime commitment.
Well, yeah, we were engaged. And I think that the soon after, we had already planned on doing a private ceremony. It just kind of, we took the approach of, we're not going to turn our back on each other, and this is what we're going to do. And we had our little village of support that said, go right ahead, and it wasn't a mistake. We're still here strong. No one's here trying to play the perfectionist game, but it was a way to put our back against the wall and deal with everything that's coming, because we know on the other end there's growth. So I'm not saying that's a storm. We're not here recommending that's a storm you want to put your family through. But one thing about my wife, before everything, she was my friend. In the midst of me becoming someone that she's seen from growing up in the projects, not having much, overnight that changed, and she witnessed all of it. So, but that was my friend, and she's still my friend. We just happen to be married. in raising our family together. And I think that's one thing that never got lost as we were going through this process, is that, you know, my wife is my best friend.
And at the time, I know you did a couple of interviews where she said this was the only time that had ever happened between you.
Yes.
And that's the truth.
That's 100% the truth. Like I said, I think that when you mention the world of domestic violence, have we ever had words, a disagreement? Yes. We're not here trying to play the perfection game, but as far as a physical altercation, yes. You know, we didn't. I can say, I know that I didn't say all the right things as we've been knowing each other or been together over 17 years. Like, no, we're not here saying that it's perfect, but we're here saying that we put in the work I'm saying I put in the work to make sure that not only that my life is different going forward, but my kids' lives. You know, they are getting the best versions of us because we're patient with the approach. We didn't try to fix ourselves I didn't try to fix myself overnight, nor did I try to fix my marriage overnight. You know, and like I said, friendship was the thing that came about it. Like, she's known me since I was growing up in a neighborhood that wasn't so pleasant, but, you know, my mom and everybody, we did our best to make it out, and she literally got to watch me from a college dorm to living on my own to now getting drafted, and it happened very quick, and there was no preparation for that, and she stuck by me.
Let's talk about your kids for a minute, because this is a crazy world. It's a Google world, and it's a cruel world. I mean, it happens to my kids, same thing happens to my kids when you're in the public eye. Your kids, if they haven't, someday may Google your name and up will pop that video, and they're going to have to, if they haven't already, ask you, what's this about? What are you going to say to them?
The best part about it is we've been through that with our kids. Like I said, there's nothing that we want to hide from our kids. And I think that when you're as fully as transparent with your kids, now they're ready for the world. Not saying it's going to be easy, but at the same time, they come home with us every day, and they understand who we are, and they understand what we're trying to do and provide for them going forward. So yes, it is a very dangerous world out there on social media, and I understand it. And whoever doesn't understand it at this point, you know, I've done work in the bullying world. So, and I understand how bullying, you know, I was part of Gracie's Law back here before, you know, with the cyberbullying, and I understand that that's a real possibility for not just my kids, anybody. Mm-hmm. So if it happens in that part of it, like I said, I'm glad that there's, if you find it upon yourself to want to bully my kids, well, you can get prosecuted for that, you know, because it's a crime. So I'm not saying that as a threat. I'm saying that I know my kids are not going to go out there and say what my dad did was right.
All right.
I know that they would understand that what I did was horrible, but I'm a better human being than what I put out there then.
Do you feel forgiven? In other words, when you go places, the grocery store or whatever, are you still, when people think Ray Rice, they think that? Or do they think the Pro Bowler and the Super Bowl champ, et cetera? Do you think that that will always be a shadow that you're under?
No, I don't. I feel forgiven within. I feel very forgiven within. I think what's ironic is that anything anyone wants to live by or live by me, you have the ability to do it. If you want to live through the moments of me playing football, I gotta let you have it. If you wanna live through the moments of telling me about my worst day ever, my moments, I gotta let you have it. But if that's what you're living through and that's what you have, and that's what I gave you. This part of me now is, I don't like to use chapters, but you can have those moments. I gave them to you. I played my heart out when I played. I made the worst decision of my life. You can have those moments. I gave those to the world. I put it out there for you to have. Now, energy, as long as it's a positive approach, I don't mind being stopped in the grocery store. I don't mind talking to people. I don't mind helping. Obviously, I'm a protector of my family and my children. So.
You went to practice last month, and I saw a photo of you surrounded by kids wanting to talk with you or get your autograph, that sort of thing. How does it feel when you go back to the castle?
I think that's probably one of the, I love kids, but I think that I love the fact that if a kid comes up to me, I'm just trying to think about, okay, if a kid comes up to me and I hear a parent in the back saying, you know who that is? That's Ray Rice. I know that there's a further conversation that has to be had.
Like what happened?
And I know that over time, those parents got to see the work I'm doing. So I don't know the conversation that was had. But if I had to guess, right, if I'm just a guessing person, I would say that's Ray Rice. He won 3-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ, played for us, and his career got cut short because he did a very bad thing. No excuses. But what he's done since then, he's tried to make himself a better person. He never put fault on anyone. He never blamed anyone. And he's still out there helping people today. If that's the conversation that's being had, then I feel very good about all of those kids that came around me, because I know I'm thinking about the layer of conversation that has to happen. And for me to coach kids, for me to be around a bunch of kids, to now bringing those kids around my own kids, I know that I am honored to be back here. And this go round, it's always going to be Go Ravens, right? But this go round, I'm happy to have the villages of people that we were able to build around my family. So I'm thankful to Baltimore as a whole for helping me build my own little village within.
What you're saying now, is this kind of what you say when you go and you mentor and you do motivational speaking? Just what you just said to me now? Yeah,
you know what? I mean, I try not to call my speeches motivational, but I do call them very real.
And who do you speak to?
So I've been blessed and fortunate enough to go around and talk to some NFL teams, colleges, and obviously youth on the regular. But you know what? I be honest with you. I tell them the honest truth, and the honest truth is, you can live your dreams, but that dream can turn into a nightmare. And I raised my hand and said, I lived the dream and I lived the nightmare. And I think that, like I said, the best teacher is experience. I'm not here overshadowing the work of the professionals, but I'm here today as someone who had it all. Some people would say lost it all. I lost the game. See, that's what I like to say. I lost a game that made me very noticeable. That doesn't overshadow what happened. I didn't lose my life. I didn't lose my family. So when you think about what I lost, some people may say he lost millions of dollars. So what? I'm here today saying, so what? Those couple millions of dollars of seeing me back on the field, you know what I would have been back on the field doing? That would have been validation for everyone else, not me. I conquered football. I don't need a Hall of Fame jacket. I don't need none of the accolades. I don't need to be voted into nothing. All I know is I conquered football. Another yard, another stat, another fantasy point would not have been good for me.
Because you were a better man now than you were then.
What I understand now is what my high school coaches told me, and it makes perfect sense. For me, and it might not make sense to nobody else, but too many pats on the back set you back. So for me, that makes sense. That's why I said I conquered football. They didn't have the money. I had my life and I had my sanity. I conquered it.
So obviously I read a quote, and when I read it, it sort of took my breath away. I went, it was a sports critic who said, hold on. He goes, hold on. Because I don't want to misquote, because I'm not a sports critic. He said, Ray Rice could have been the greatest. Ray Rice could have been one of the best short running backs in NFL history. That could have been. Does that bite? Does that make it ouch?
No. Because what he put as could have been, I can easily play that and say, go look at stats, go look at numbers, go look at Hall of Fame numbers. You can go look at whatever you want, however you want to slice it. I have an asterisk, all right? I'm fine with it. Numbers don't lie, okay? So I'm not saying that proudly and boastfully. I'm just saying that's what I put out there for them, to put those kind of statements out. Could have been. All right. I'm not a debater. I understand what the position I put myself in. But I'd rather be a Hall of Fame dad, a Hall of Fame husband, in my own little box than to have to worry about critics and quotes. But there's a respect level there. There is a genuine respect level there. If anyone in the media could tell you, I've never disrespected no one in the media. I respect the job that has to be done. And the job that has to be done, messages have to come out, right? And there's usually room for conversation.
So this village that you're talking about, does that now include the Ravens community as well? How are you greeted when you go there? Do you still have friends in the building?
You know what, I think that's the beautiful part about, I have nothing bad to say about the Baltimore Ravens. I think that when you talk about forgiveness, right? I think that once I forgave myself, I'm thankful of the opportunity to have represented the Baltimore Ravens. When I think of, you go first, right? You have to thank Steve Bisciotti for the opportunity that he gave me, and you can go down the line, but then there's like special people in that building, right? You can go down the line and you could, Ozzie Newsome's, the Eric DeCostas. Everyone understands what happened. But I think today, at least, I feel like we all respect each other as men. So you take their job, you take everybody's jobs, and you put it for, understanding the severity of these jobs and the highly notoriety of those jobs. Those are really good people who care about not just the football player. And I'm honored to to understand it and feel that genuinely. They care about you as a human being. I've only got the chance to play for one organization, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm not looking backwards on something that happened. I got punished for something that I did terribly wrong. That's gonna happen in life. That's what's supposed to happen. And it's not about what you deserve at that point. You know, you do something wrong in school, you get suspended, like, that's what life deals you. What happened to me was a life lesson, and hopefully people learned from that. And that's why I'm always thankful of the Baltimore Ravens.
And you have friends?
Is that too loud?
No, we're okay.
Okay.
And you have friends there still?
Yes.
I mean, you're still friends with Tori and some of the guys?
Your teammates become your brothers, right? So
That's what you would think.
when you mention friends, like I said, yes, they're like my brothers. I have a lot of guys I keep in contact with.
Was there a time when that was rocky and then it got better? Like 10 years ago when that initially happened, it must have been a rough. It tests friendships. It tests people's alliances.
I think that was one of the greatest things that happened, and I say that humbly. The people who are supposed to be in my life are here. I was too accessible. I was too accessible. At the pinnacle of my career, anyone could reach me probably at any time. So when you want to talk about priorities, that means what time did I have for home? If I'm being pulled in 75 different directions. So, be honest with you, when it got lonely, it got peaceful. And I say that humbly because I needed some loneliness to understand peacefulness. And like, those are the things I've had to reflect on. And those are the things that I continue to try to live by. You know, it's not about going out or doing this. It's about what priorities am I putting before I decide to do those things to help others. Is my household whole before I go help anyone else? And that's why I said the peace within now. I'm thankful to have my wife who we both love helping kids. That's why she's team mom for the youth football team that I coach. And
Do you still? I mean, it sounds like you've had some very good therapists along the way. Do you still talk to people, see people?
yeah, it became part. It's just like working out. I mean, if you love fitness, right, and you love life, don't they say the brain is like one of the most powerful muscles you can use? I mean, so if we're not exercising our brain, right, how are we going to exercise in life? And I think that through the counseling, through the work, right, because I said it's an ongoing thing. It's not something that you just, all right, I reached this point of therapy, I'm free. You know, I'm not on probation. You know, I'm someone who just continually understands that in life you either get better or you get worse. People do not stay the same. And if you get too comfortable, that's room for things to grow. And I'm not gonna do that with my life.
You have a little boy and you have a little girl. And back on the subject, this is something that I care about personally, back on the subject of domestic violence, you have to tell little girls certain things so they never become a victim. So they never let any young man or old man treat them in a way that it isn't respectful and caring. Mm-hmm. And if you have a little boy, I assume you have to talk to them about respecting women and never getting to that place. What do you say to your children to prevent them from ever having that kind of mistake happen to them?
I'm smiling because not only do they know, but my daughter has heard me speak at some colleges, and I literally said, I get to live now my message. I believe there's two types of people, right? As a man, you get to be the man and a man. And you can only be the man for a moment. Over my career, high school, I was the man for that moment of my life, right? But you get to make a conscious choice on being a man for a lifetime. So my daughter's got the first bout of that message. And with help, she's got to be around some really good men. When you're raising a daughter, you don't try to be the over-dominant man in her life. What you do is you surround her around good men that you can trust, that without even saying anything, your message is getting across. And my father-in-law is the greatest human being alive for that message. Doesn't have to say much, but he's our version in our village as the man's man. And I think that me understanding how he operates has changed me as well, because I just take on a lot of him. But for my son, he gets the honest message of, don't worry about being the man. Well, let's worry about being a boy. Because I don't want you paying bills at 11 years old, but I do need you to understand responsibility. And he has helped with that, because once I can let him be a boy, you can go through the natural phases of understand what it's like to become a man, not skip a phase. I skipped a phase. I went from riding bikes, having fun with my friends, to full-time job, paying bills. I skipped a whole phase, and I don't want these kids, even the ones I'm coaching, to skip phases. It's time for y'all to be boys. You're gonna grow up, but there's certain things as boys you gotta do in order to develop to becoming that man. And I think once you skip a phase of development, that's when the overcompensation comes in.
So using your analogy, which is a good one, you were the man in that elevator.
Too prideful, the man. Better yet, to put a real word out there, a punk man. And there's other words I can use for myself in that moment. There's very words out there that I can use for myself in that moment. I wouldn't even put man behind that. But in therapy, you learn to be gentle to yourself, right?
And to forgive yourself.
And to forgive yourself. But there's other words besides man you can put in that picture.
I think I've covered everything. I know you had a cousin and you have a tattoo. Was he Suk or?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He was like your father figure, right?
He was the first person in my family to, if you go down the set of cards that he was dealt, lost his mother. And he had a dream. He wanted to become an artist. Right. And he was the first person that said, I'm gonna be an artist. I'm gonna go out there and make music, and I'm gonna make it. And he was in a car accident. Him and his wife died immediately, instantly, and he was on life support. And that was the first version of losing someone that you really loved and understood them in my life. So yeah, he was more than, he was bigger than life itself to me. Like he was a king.
He was the man.
He was the man, yeah. Like that I seen. But yeah, that was a rough one because.
And your in-laws, they obviously, the relationship is good and they totally forgave you for, because to watch your daughter that happened to your daughter, that's not easy.
Yeah, I think what they got to see was when other people take a deeper, when you aren't taking the deeper look, and someone who truly cares about you, they're taking a deeper look. I'm not saying you look past, but they looked within. And to me, I'm forever grateful, like that I have a family like that. Like I have a forgiving family, and I'm meaning my wife's family, because that's the family that we married into. But I also have my right side that were forgiven as well. But when you have the family that you created's family being able to look within, it's like it gets no better than that. It gets no better than that.
Thank you. Great conversation.
Oh, thank you.
You gave me things to think about too. You've had good coaches, you've had good therapists, you've had good people helping you understand things, it sounds like.
They had to. I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have rather it no other way. Time was the enemy. When you take away that structured schedule, time was my enemy. I had too much time.
You mean when you stopped?
When I stopped playing.
No more playing.
No more playing. So to not be your worst enemy, what did I do with that time?
Mm-hmm. Could have spiraled way down.
It could have spiraled way down, and like I said, you don't stay the same. It's just routine, it's regiment, but it's staying the course of understanding like what's life's mission. Life's mission is to give yourself a chance, but in order to give yourself, if you give yourself a chance, your kids are gonna have a chance. And the beautiful part is like, me and my wife are individuals, but we found our happy place in understanding the value of friendship, how much I respect her, how much it's not about what we can buy, it's not about things that we can have, it's about truly, I worship the ground that she walks on. She respects me, and everything she does, I'm not trying to change her. I'm just trying to be a good partner. And I think that's just allowed us to just have a bunch of fun, man. We still make each other laugh, and we still get to look at our kids and be like, hey, we created those two little things. So yeah,
That's the best.
It's not, but these are not overnight things. Mm-hmm. These are things, my grandparents been married 60 years. And to think that everything was perfect, I know it wasn't. So I think that understanding that life's work does take time, it takes practice, and it takes patience.
Well, thank you for this time.